Tee time for the first round of the Zurich Classic of New Orleans is Thursday morning as the new team format makes its encore performance after Cameron Smith and Jonas Blixt won the inaugural event last year in a playoff. We'll preview this year's event with in-depth player analysis, course knowledge, the latest odds, trends, and picks. That's Prime Sports Golf on the Prime Sports Radio Network starts now. All right, you're listening to Prime Sports Golf for this Tuesday, the 24th of April, 2018, with Jeff Shane, Brady Cannon, and Joel Cook on the Prime Sports Radio Network. Prime Sports Golf brought to you by ProGolfWeekly.com and Covers.com. Make sure to visit Covers Experts at experts.covers.com. Take 50% off any purchase by using the promo code PRIME50. That's PRIME50. All right, time to introduce my co-host to the show. He's a PGAtour.com contributor. You can find his first look reports every Friday prior to each event on the PGA Tour, including next week's Wells Fargo. Jeff Shane. Jeff, all I can say is after watching last week's event, let's just hope some star power will contend for the win this week. Not sure I can go through that once again. I mean, especially those final few holes. I mean, these were painfully poor golf. I mean, it looked like nobody wanted to win, except Andrew Landry, of course, because at least he didn't have to do anything except even bogey, and he was okay if he wanted to. But, hey, he couldn't care less. He's a PGA Tour winner.
And he's knocked on the door a couple times. Remember that he lost the playoff to John Rahm back at the Career Builder in January. So he's been hanging around, and I guess it's a good spot for him. A native Texan, an hour away from home, winning the Texas Open for his first PGA Tour win. I'm sure it didn't draw the ratings that we might have seen, 3 weeks ago, but, good for Andrew Landry.
Yeah, just to show you I'm sure they had a dip in the ratings last week. They didn't. I mean, Jim Nantz didn't even show up. So Faldo and Nance took the week off. So you could tell that's, but as we talked about last week, they've got a switch. So that starts next year, right? So that's going to be, they'll be before the Masters next year?
Yeah, although it's not official, won't be official for a couple of weeks, all the indications are that Texas is going into the Houston slot the week before the Masters, which will make for a really interesting dichotomy because Houston was prepared to get players ready for Augusta National. TPC San Antonio can't do that. It's too different. And so now players are going to have to make a decision, and we'll see whether, the old adage, be careful what you wish for, comes into play with the Valero Texas Open.
Yeah. So, and the PGA Championship, is that going to be now in May?
Yeah, the PGA Championship.
That's awesome.
That was kind of the whole domino effect. Started with the PGA Championship, which wanted to get out of August, and I think also may have felt some pressure with this move to get the PGA Tour playoffs done by Labor Day. So working with the tour, they said we'll move to May.
Yep.
And then the domino moved.
Thank goodness.
The players back into March. So very, very different dynamic that's coming up. We'll get a bigger picture in 2 weeks.
Well, look, I'm not going to sit here and just be biased towards the PGA Tour. Of course, we're never going to be biased towards anything. We don't get paid to be biased. So, but look, it's too boring right now. And so thank goodness they made these moves. Smart to make these moves. You move the PGA Championship up. And I would just guess, and hopefully that by doing that, now all of a sudden we won't have these dead periods right after the Masters. So, that should be really interesting to see. And you said 2 more weeks we'll find out the schedule?
Yeah, it's going to be announced at Ponte Vedra during the Players' Championship. I will add this caveat, though. Yeah, the PGA Championship is going to move into May. Essentially, it's going to take the May big event slot already held by the Players' Championship. So I still think, however they try to structure it, there's going to be this post-Masters letdown as players step away, as they take a little break, recharge their batteries, get ready to prepare for the next major at the PGA. I just don't know. We'll see what the schedule looks like. I don't know that we will completely avoid what we have seen in the past 2 weeks.
Well, even if it's just one less week, and I think we talked about that, even if they just cut off 1 week, that's okay. Just 1 week. We just can't have 4 weeks in between where we're seeing the best players of the world get together on some sort of, even next week is a good week. Next week's a good week. It's not a major. It's not the fifth major, but we all know Wells Fargo is a good event, good golf course. They're good players. It's something to get excited about. I don't know about, what do you think, Brady? As a welcome in Brady Cannon, our covers handicapper. What do you think about this time of year? You're excited about the Texas Open? Maybe next year.
Well, no. I think the golf course is a lot of fun to watch these players play, but obviously you didn't have a tremendous field. But it really hasn't been that long of a lull. I think Harbortown is a very good event, another great venue that a lot of the players really enjoy, and the field seems to get better and better there each year. And then, like you say, next week we go right into the Wells Fargo and then on to the Players. So really we've only had about a 7 to 10 day dip here in interest, in my opinion.
Well, that makes this week important, though. Because if this week, look, last year wasn't all that great because of the fact that we didn't get the star power in the leaderboard, but now we've got some better players this year. But then again, Rose and Stenson did not make the cut last year, so that's the important thing. Is that hopefully, because if let's just say we get. I don't know. Let me just throw it out there. Let's say we get Ryder and Spawn go up against Glover and Revy and Finau and Summerhays on Sunday. I mean, this is going to be 2 weeks of you got to be kidding me.
Yeah, and that type of thing is hard to avoid. But I think one thing that the tour has been great at doing with the Zurich Classic is creating some interest and switching the format to team play, which I think is always exciting to watch, where you get to witness some of the camaraderie and you kind of see that competitive nature come together as a team, as a unit, rather than just an individual player. And then the walk-up songs this year, they're trying to do a lot of different things to make it fun. So now, hopefully everything comes together and you do get some star power at the top of the leaderboard. The Texas Open, really, though, there wasn't much of a chance that anything exciting was going to happen because you just didn't have a lot of star power in the field. So hopefully the Zurich Classic can bridge the gap here between Harbortown and the Wells Fargo.
All right.
And just to mention, too, the Texas Open last week had, I think, 6 of the top 30 players in the world rankings. It was very definitely a lull in the schedule. This week, there has been some excitement created. There are 18 of the top 30 in the field at the Zurich Classic. So I think the players have embraced it, and as such, we got a better chance of having a good matchup on Sunday.
Yep, let's definitely hope that is the case. Because the only thing I was looking forward to watching the golf last weekend was Amanda Balionis. That was about it. That's what got me up. All right, so let's talk about this week's event. Give me the best. First of all, talk about the golf course, Brady, because that's still important. We've got a wide range of team players this week. We've got a lot of veteran players that are gonna be potential contenders, mixed in with the young crowd and of course the star power. So, what kind of a golf course are we talking about here?
Well, the golf course isn't any different. The format is they've played the Zurich Classic here 12 out of the last 13 years at TPC Louisiana. And it is a Pete Dye design. And because you have the two-person team format this week, it becomes very difficult to handicap that dynamic. You can't really apply stats to a two-man team. This is only the second year that this tournament has performed in this format, so there's not a lot of history to look at or a lot of statistics. But you can go back and look at how individual players have done at TPC Louisiana. It was really always a birdie fest, and there really wasn't wasn't any importance put upon how you fared off of the tee, whether it was distance or accuracy. That didn't come into play too much. It really became a putting contest. It was about hitting greens in regulation and getting really hot with the putter for the week. So, if you are going to look at handicapping the team play event, you want to look at a team that, has guys that are hitting greens in regulation with regularity and are good putters. But I think more so than that, you want to look at guys that do well at Pete Dye design golf courses, and we've got 3 here in a 5-week span. We go back a couple of weeks to Harbortown. You can look at guys how they have fared there just 2 weeks ago and in the past.
Okay.
Of course, this week and how they've done here. And then in 2 weeks we go to Sawgrass. So there's 3 Pete Dye designs you can look at when putting your team together and how these guys have done at those golf courses. And then you can also look at how they've done in team play format. If you look to the December event, a non-official event, but the QBE Shootout, formerly the Franklin Templeton Shootout, how some of these guys have done in that type of format, more of a Ryder Cup situation. So a tough handicap indeed, but there are a few indicators you can look at to hopefully come out with a couple of good picks.
All right. Well, give us a couple. Give me somebody that might be a contender that doesn't have a big name.
Well, you mentioned, first of all, I'll start with a favorite. You mentioned Henrik Stenson and Justin Rose, and yes, they missed the cut last year. I would expect them to rebound and play pretty well here this year. Both guys are playing really well. Justin Rose has been one of the best players in the world for the last 6 or 8 months. And Stenson, he's won a Players' Championship at TPC Sawgrass. Justin Rose has won before at this golf course. So they have, all the boxes checked coming in. Mm-hmm. I would expect them to do better this year in the second year of this format. Maybe they weren't, so used to it last year.
Well, Henrik wasn't playing well last year when they were playing this event. He came into the event really, I think he had missed 3 straight cuts. So he was not on top of his game, and right now he is.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you another duo I like that are playing well, and that's Matt Kuchar and Bubba Watson. Watson has won at this course before. He's also won at Pete Dye's River Highlands course in Connecticut, and Kuchar has won a Players' Championship at Sawgrass. Mm-hmm. And again, like I say, both these guys are playing well. I think that's a really interesting pairing there. Bubba with the power and Kuchar, with the soft touch. They're in the neighborhood of 12-1. And then you mentioned, some lesser names that I could see making some noise this week. These guys were bigger names years ago, but now they're on the Champions Tour, and that's Jerry Kelly and Steve Stricker.
Yep.
Number 1 and 2 on the Champions Tour this year. They're somewhere in the neighborhood of about 50-1 to win this week. But Stricker, I mentioned that QBE Shootout. He won it back in December with Sean O'Hare. And then Jerry Kelly, not only has he won the Zurich Classic at this golf course, but he's always been a great player at the Players' Championship at Sawgrass. So, a couple of older guys that are playing really good golf right now and have some history at a Pete Dye design. I think they're a tandem to look at.
Yeah, they're probably the best long shots in the field because of, like you said, they're playing so well on the Champions Tour. And just even, again, Kelly winning here in 2009. They played here pretty decently last year, finishing 14th. And, again, a big number, 50-60-1. That's pretty big. So considering the competition that they're in, battling for that long shot, I'm actually kind of surprised they're getting such a big number.
Yeah, I guess maybe it's just because of the perception that they're on the Champions Tour now.
Mm-hmm.
But, if you look at what Steve Stricker's done, even a few events that he's played on the regular tour, he's been excellent. I think it was 12th at the Valspar, 26th or so at Pebble Beach. He's really not as old as a lot of these guys on the Champions Tour, and he's been killing it out there. So I do think they are a good pairing this week, and I would expect them to play well.
All right, so what's going on at teatimesusa.com, Brady? You're the regional manager there in Vegas.
Yeah, well, making a lot of tee times for people coming to Las Vegas. The springtime buzz has not cooled off yet. When we get to summertime, things get pretty hot around here in Las Vegas, as you know, and golf dies down quite a bit. But, really February through May, it stays pretty busy. So still booking a lot of tee times for a few months before I go on vacation.
All right. Well, when you don't go on vacation in the next 2 weeks because you've got the big. Well, then again, obviously it has nothing to do with your tee times. Maybe it'll give you more opportunity to watch the golf the next 2 weeks. Maybe it is a good time for you to take vacation. Just don't take the
No,
vacation on the show.
I don't go until the summertime because that's when the tee time business slows down quite a bit in Las Vegas.
A little too hot to go play.
Yeah, a little too hot. It's great. I love playing in the morning. In the dead of summer, playing as early as you can get out of bed is gorgeous. But it heats up quickly.
All right. Well, next couple of weeks should be a lot of fun. Wells Fargo and the Players. So look forward to talking to you about those two big events over the next couple of weeks, Brady. Thanks for talking to us again once more today.
You bet. Thank you, gentlemen. Have fun.
All right. That's Brady Cannon.
Brady.
And that, again, is covers.com. Actually, you can go for that 50% off purchase, experts.covers.com. Use the promo code PRIME50. That's PRIME50. So, yeah, they're going to be one of the things I know I want to target here, Jeff, when we talk about when we get into this week's matches, are going to be the teams are going to be the history of the teams that have played together before and whether or not that could come into play here. You would think it would. Now, again, it didn't last year for Rose and Stenson, who were the favorites at 8-1. But again, I think that probably did have more to do with the fact that Henrik just wasn't playing his best golf, and that could happen. And then who knows? I mean, it's first time playing at this event. It's a completely different situation than playing, say, in the Ryder Cup. But it was interesting that Brady brought up both Rose Stenson, Kuchar Watson, because those two, as of course you remember, had that tremendous match in the 2014 Ryder Cup when both teams just had a birdie fest.
Yeah, and I think maybe that there's that the dynamic is different in the Ryder Cup / President's Cup too, because it's match play. You're only trying to beat the guy in front of you, as opposed to this where you're still trying to make a score, even though you are playing as a two-man team, alternate shot or best ball, and there's 2 days of each here. So I wonder if that had something to do with it as well. You have to putt everything out. There's no gimmies. I think the dynamic may be a little bit different in that sense.
Now, are they going to be putting like a Rose Stenson, Kuchar Watson out there on a tee time, same team time? They got to do something like that to try to make sure that they maybe get a little bit more, maybe get these guys pumped up a little bit more to go mano a mano. Again, not necessarily that pairing, but you get what I'm saying. You think that's what they're probably going to do?
Well, as with all the PGA Tour events, they do create these featured groups now, so that there will be there will be guys that you can watch streaming online all day and for television to pick up when the Golf Channel comes on, and they've already announced who those are, and in fact, Rose and Stenson, Kuchar and Watson are paired together. They will be the afternoon featured group on Friday.
Okay.
And so that should be interesting. And don't forget too, we talk about Rose and Stenson being gold and silver at the Olympics. Don't forget Matt Kuchar was bronze. So you've got all three of your Olympic medalists in this grouping. But they are paired together for the first 2 days, and they'll be featured in the television coverage on Friday. Just to run down the other featured groups: Patrick Reed, Patrick Cantlay. So you got the new Masters champion, and we know how good Patrick Cantlay is. They are paired with the defending champions, Blixt and Smith, and that will be the morning featured group on Friday. Backing up one day, going to Thursday, Jordan Spieth and Ryan Palmer are in the afternoon featured group, along with Wesley Bryan and John Rahm. An interesting pairing. I'm not sure how that was put together, but should be interesting. And then first thing on Thursday, Justin Thomas, Bud Colley, and Daniel Berger, Gary Woodland. So those are your matchups.
Okay. All right. Before I introduce our next analyst, make sure to follow us on Twitter at PrimeSN. That's when you can find out when our shows are available on demand and our latest opinions and such. Joining us now from ProGolfWeekly.com, that's a weekly digital magazine that covers pro golf around the world, is ProGolfWeekly.com lead writer Joel Cook, the man who hit Andrew Landry at 150 to 1. So congratulations, Joel. How much did you put down on Andrew Landry?
Thank you. I actually put down nothing on him. I strongly regret it, though. Those odds look so good for a Texas guy who has seen the game start coming back around the week before. I thought about it.
You're just not a gambling man.
Park the money.
That's just what it is.
Not usually. I need to get better at it. But,
yeah. Because again, that's why don't you hear when I say, "Oh, come on, you got to put a buck down." What you got to do? Just put a buck down on some of these things. Every time you have these picks every week, just go ahead and just make sure you cover it with a buck. I mean, you don't want to be shut out of 150.
Yeah, I would have made up for the whole year right there.
That's right. You would have your bankroll for the year. Absolutely. All right. So let's talk. By the way, which non-big, because we've gone over some of the big teams already. So which you got Garcia Cabrera Bea would be the other one. So give me a non-big team this week that intrigues you, Joel.
Well, there's a few of them here. I mean, this one's not really considered a big group because but their odds are actually pretty high up there. That Sean O'Haire Jimmy Walker tandem is kind of interesting to me because they've both been playing so much better as of late. I heard Brady mentioned O'Haire in that QB shootout earlier this year, and Jimmy Walker finally has been showing signs of life lately. They were both really good last week. The Valero, if they can keep that going at this course, they're one that's intriguing to me a lot. Other than that, I mean,
you don't like the Benny on Kevin Na team?
I like it on how it looks on paper, but other than that, we could always.
How much of a coincidence was that? Come on now, like they didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah, probably.
I'm sure that I know Kevin Na has a sense of humor, and so he might have actually gone after that. And so they're reasonably similar players, and they can certainly communicate with each other. And if this was Scrabble, they would get the low score.
Okay, well, it's not. And then, like you said, you get the weird ones, Rom and Brian. That's kind of weird. Not sure how that. I mean, what's up with Jason Day and Brooks Koepka, who makes his return? So it's good to see Brooks making his return this week. But, and I know he played with his brother last year, and so I could excuse, to play with somebody that really isn't very, very good as far as the rankings are concerned. But, I mean, I don't know what was the deal with his brother not being available, but Mark Ternessa, the dude is 1,848th in the world. I mean, could you have picked a better player?
He won on the PGA Tour 10 years ago.
Yeah, he hasn't had a top 20 since 2012, early 2012, too. That was not one to see. I mean, I'm sure he had to have some other family member that could have jumped in there.
There's got to be a connection. There has to be. I mean, is he just looking for the lowest ranked guy in the world?
Here's the story: is that we know Brooks has been sidelined for 3 months with the tendon problem in his wrist, and so he was targeting to get back for the Masters, wasn't ready for that. Finally decided his wrist is good enough to try and play again, and so he decided to enter Zurich. But he entered at the absolute last minute. He did not enter until Friday afternoon.
Okay.
Well, then he had to figure out who to partner with, and you can imagine that all the potential partners were pretty well picked over.
Yep.
And so Mark Ternesa lives in South Florida. I am sure he and Koepka are either members at the same club or cross paths often enough to where they are familiar enough with each other that Brooks just, kind of throwing a bone to the wind said, hey, why don't you come and enter event and be my partner this week? And so lo and behold, Koepka gets in based on his status as a major champion, and he gets to pick any partner he wants as long as he's a PGA Tour member. Even if you are, almost at the bottom of the list in terms of categories, still be a PGA Tour member.
I mean,
was his brother a PGA member last year?
No, he had to get special permission from the tour to get his brother a sponsor exemption to get into the field. And I think because of the timing with the injury, he couldn't work that out this year.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, because I was looking at the rankings, and at 1,847, I saw you there, Jeff, and Joel, you were at 1,912. So Mark was sandwiched in between you guys, but
Okay.
I know you guys weren't available. All right, so who's got the first pick this week? Joel, Jeff, you got the first pick, right?
Actually, I do. Yes.
All right, so you're the lucky man. You've got the first pick this week. And where are you going to go? Who are you going to go with? Let's see. Again, Justin Rose and Henrik Stenson. They are the favorites, as well they should be. I mean, these are the two superstars, and they're playing together. So they are. By the way, they were 1-2 in the Ryder Cup versus Spieth and Reed last couple years ago. And as I mentioned, they had that really fun Ryder Cup match with Kuchar and Watson back in 2014. Then you go Thomas, Cawley, Spieth, Palmer are 12-1. Reed, Cantlay, Kuchar, Watson 14-1. Rahm and Bryan 16-1. So who's going to be your first pick? You going with any of those favorites, or are you going to take a crazy long shot because this would be the week to do it?
Well, and there certainly may be some eyebrow raising picks later because as we kind of talked before the show, I don't know that any of us really have a handle on how to make picks here. But just looking at form and guys that are used to playing together, and also just these two players are actually, I think, hotter than Watson and Rose, although they've been playing, or I'm sorry, Stenson and Rose, although they've been playing very well. But I've touted Bubba Watson here for the last 2 months, and Matt Kuchar is Mr. Steady in terms of constantly performing at a high level. Kuch might even be able to get Bubba to raise his game a little bit. They are used to playing with each other, and so they're going to be my top pick, Watson Kuchar at 14-1.
Okay. So, I mean, I'm not really surprised that they are a pick. A little bit surprised, just a tiny bit, that you did not go at Rose and Stenson. But definitely.
I'm a little hesitant because of the fact that they were paired last year, and I know that they weren't in the same form that they are now, but they didn't even make that cut last year. And that's kind of why I question, is it just a different dynamic because it's not a Ryder Cup and you have to make a score?
No, sure, absolutely. That is, I mean, look. Plus, I don't know. I always shy away from in these types of strange fields or events the favorites. I don't know why, but I just never seem to. The favorites just never seem to win these things. You know, whether it's one of those Puerto Rico Open events or these things. It's just it's usually just some guys like Jonas Blixt and Cameron Smith that win. So. But yeah, it's tempting, no question, to want to go after Rose and Stenson. But they are 8-1. It's a kind of low number, but they are, easily the best players in the field. I'm just going to stick with the two that I was going to go with because I did think you were probably going to go with Rose and Stenson. I was thinking of going with them, but I'm taking actually the I'm taking the pair that Joel talked about. So I'm going with Walker and O'Hare. So I'm going to take that group, and I just think that these guys, as Joel said, they're playing well. Walker's playing his best golf. O'Hare's playing some of his best golf, and that combination, I think, may not be a bad idea. Look, if this was a regular event, I would go Rose and Stenson, but because it's one of these crazy ones, I'll go ahead and take Walker and O'Hare at 22-1. All right, so Joel, you okay? You babysitting there?
Oh yeah, sorry. My 2-year-old just asked for something a moment ago. She'll be okay.
Is she playing golf yet?
No, but a little bit. We have a play set that she'll hit drives off of this little tee sometimes. So
all right,
I'm working on her.
Well, keep us updated.
Yeah.
How does that open it up?
Beckham.
Does that open it up for Rose and Stenson for you, Joel?
It's kind of tempting. I mean, I really didn't expect him to be here, but I think I'm gonna I'm usually pretty hesitant taking a guy right after he wins a major, especially after his first one. But I just can't. Patrick Reed in a team format is just too tempting, and he and Cantlay looked really good in this tournament. They had a lousy third round. They started off 68-62, and then they bounced back for a 66 on the last day. Finished tied 14. And Cantlay was top 10 his last time out at the Heritage, and Reed's always been someone that kind of can go run hot and cold. I don't see him just tanking this week, even with all the distractions. I mean, he always creates all these distractions anyway, and it usually goes well. So I think I want to stick with them at 14-1.
Okay, so there you go. Kuchar and Watson off 14-1, and Reed and Cantlay at 14-1 are both off the board. And I've got Walker and O'Hara 22-1. So the top three are still there: Rose Stenson, Spieth Palmer, Thomas Cawley. Jeff.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a surprise because I figured one of you guys would pick up Rose Stenson after I took Watson Kuchar. So I did not expect them to drop into my lap. This is a spot where maybe I can't let them be passed up too much more. They are both playing a heck of a lot better than they did last year. I honestly like Kuchar and Watson a little bit better, but geez, if you're coming back around with those guys,
sure,
I'll take Rose.
No, absolutely. They have to be taken, no doubt about it. 8-1 might be a low number, but it also, considering how good these players are in this field, might be a real good number. So, they've got to go. Okay, next up, I will. Let's see, my pick. I tell you what, I'm going to go with the clowns at 33-1. I'm going to go with Benny On and Kevin Na. So, because keep in mind, On really was in a good position to win that 2016 event, the one that Stewart won. Remember, I think it was Lovemark also. Both Lovemark and On looked like they were going to win that at a couple times, and then Stewart stole it. And were they in a three-man playoff, by the way, that year? Do you remember?
I think they were.
Okay. So anyway, On's got the good history here. So keep that in mind. Plus, he's playing really well. He's got 5 top 25s in his last 7, 3 top 10s, 1 top 5. And sometimes that's really all you need is one guy at least playing well. Because let's keep in mind, last year, we were, as we said, there were a couple of those 4 guys that were in the playoff. A couple of them weren't exactly playing well, including Brown, who was doing nothing, and they almost won the thing. So. But one guy can really help you out in these team formats. So I'll go with On and not 33-1. Who are you going to go with, Joel?
I'm going to stay near the top again. I'm going to take this ones. These two I have very highly on my weekly rankings on Pro Golf Weekly. Justin Thomas and Bud Collett played really well this tournament last year. They they were 64-61 on the best ball days. They ended up finishing tied 5, and Thomas has been really hot lately, and Colley's actually been okay. I mean, he hasn't quite broken through the way we thought he might have by now, but he's coming off 3 consecutive tournaments of T23 or better. At 12-1, I think it's hard to turn down what Thomas could do in this kind of event. Yeah,
Cawley is trying to get his first win, so this would be a good opportunity for him to get it with Justin Thomas as his teammate. All right, 12-1 there, Thomas and Cawley, after a solid 5th place finish in this event last year. All right, Jeff, your third choice, Spieth Palmer still on the board. And as far as the favorites, really those are the last guys standing besides Rahm and Bryan at 16-1. And then we get to Garcia Cabrera Bello at 20-1.
Yeah, and I'm going to reach down a little bit and go for the guys that finished runner-up last year. And that's Kevin Kisner and Scott Brown. And this goes back a little bit to last year. Had a conversation with Kevin Kisner at Heritage at Harbortown last year, and talking about the format. And he said, he and Scott Brown have played together for years, and they hardly ever lose. And they got into a playoff last year. So sometimes chemistry trumps all. And
yeah,
I'm
sure.
going to ride that a little bit with Kis and Brown this year.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Not surprised about that at all. That's what it's about here in these events. By the way, Spieth and Palmer finished 4th last year. And Jordan has come off back-to-back third-place finishes. Ryan Palmer, though, not playing his best golf, so he's going to need Jordan Spieth to have a big weekend if he's going to be able to be in contention like they were last year. All right, let's see. I'm not going to go with those guys, but I will. I'll tell you what. I'll dip down and take the old timers. So I tell you what. I'll go with the Kelly Stricker combination. How about that? Kelly and Stricker at 60-1. Right? Are they still 60-1?
Yes.
Okay, 60-1. And what do you think about Stricker and Kelly at 60-1, Joel?
Pretty good odds considering some of the other players who I'm surprised are pretty close to him. I mean, they have the same odds as Harrington and Lowry. I know that's a national thing, but they feel comparable this year. And I mean, we know that Kelly and Stricker are comfortable together. They've played well in this kind of thing before. It's a pretty good value pick, I think.
Yeah, we were saying with Brady before. I'm kind of surprised that those guys are 60-1. Aren't you surprised they're 60-1, Jeff, in this field?
Stunned, and I was hoping that those guys would have lasted to the first pick of the long shot. But yeah, they should not be in the long shot category at all. Those guys played together they played together at the Legends of Golf last week. They played together in that QBE shootout. They are very used to playing with each other.
Okay.
And they're 1-2 on the Charles Schwab Cup list, and both of them still play semi-regularly on the big tour. 60-1 is a big value pick.
Yeah, speaking of playing together, and I mentioned the Rose Stenson Ryder Cup history. So they've been through the wars together. Kuchar and Watson, they've played together too. So Kelly and Stricker have a good history. We talked about Kisner and Brown. Anybody else that you've noticed, Jeff? I mean, we have some that you would think that they've played together at some point. I mean, you've got Poulter McDowell. That could, you got Oosthuizen and Schwartzel. Let's see. I mean, you would think those guys. I don't think Jason Day and Ruffles have played together. That's another.
They might have, at some point
in Australia.
Maybe back in Australia. Certainly not in the bigger in the bigger scheme of things, but Ruffles is a young Australian, and Day, I guess, really isn't young anymore. But I think they probably crossed paths a few times.
Anybody else that you've noticed, Joel? Any? Because look, Garcia Cabrera Bello. We know that. Now look, Garcia's not playing his best golf right now. That's the scary part. What's that?
But neither of them are.
Yeah, you're right. Cabrera Bello isn't playing well right now either. But it shows you they're getting a respectful 20-1, and they're not playing well. But they have Spieth and Reed in the Ryder Cup in 2016 in the foursomes. They were down 4 strokes with 6 to go. That was that really dramatic comeback they made to have that match. And then in 4 balls, they beat Holmes and Moore 3-2. So we were all surprised, weren't we, Jeff, that they weren't paired together for all 3 matches. I can't remember why they weren't the one day or the one afternoon or whatever it was, but hey, maybe they make a really good team and maybe they'll be very dangerous this week.
Yeah, it's possible. And sometimes with that Ryder Cup, the captains are trying to work in rests. They don't want somebody to be completely gassed when you need a singles point on Sunday, and sometimes that's what creates a little bit of the mix and match late Thursday or sometime on Friday. Or I'm sorry, late Friday or sometime on Saturday.
Are there any matchups, team matchups at all that you've noticed, Joel, that we didn't talk about yet? With a history really, or something?
I know Oosthuizen and Schwartzel played together in the President's Cup a few times. I think they're like 1-3. Poulter and McDowell just once played together in Ryder Cup, but they won that one match. Other than that, I'm not. Unless someone else saw one, I don't see others that step up, off the page with that.
All right, so who are you going to go with? You've got Reed, Cantlay, Thomas, Cawley. Who's your third pick?
I'm pretty tempted by the Rahm Bryan thing, just because Rahm's just playing so spectacularly lately, and you kind of hope maybe Bryan won't hold him back too much. Bryan's been absolutely awful. I think he's only made 1 cut since January. I'm going to go with the one. I'm going to pass up on the one where one guy's playing really well and the other guy's not, and take the one where neither's playing well. I actually do like that RCD Garcia combination. I think I like the temperament they both have. I think they'll be able to play off each other pretty well.
Sure.
And I wish they'd been doing better lately, but if they had been playing better lately, I probably wouldn't be able to get them at 20-1 on.
Yeah.
So I'll try that one.
All right. Not a bad idea going with the team there, the Spaniards. All right. So, Jeff, now we go into the long shots, even though I've already stolen yours at 60-1. These are 50-1 or higher. But look, we knew that Kelly and Stricker were going to get taken off the board. So I'm sure if that Kisner Brown thing wasn't there for you, you would have taken Stricker and Kelly third, right?
Yeah, the fact that Stricker and Brown, that Kisner and Brown were
Kisner and Brown, yeah.
Yeah, like I say, that's a chemistry thing that I'm going to ride. But you get into the rest of that long shot category, and it's really just throwing a dart and hoping that somebody is on form. I'm gonna throw a little bit of caution to the wind, and I'm gonna reach a little bit down. Actually, I'm gonna reach way down. I'm gonna make my long shot pick a couple of neighbors over at Sea Island that should have some chemistry together, and I know Zach Johnson is playing pretty darn well right now, and hopefully Jonathan Bird can contribute just enough to make it work.
Well, you got even on me, Jeff. That was my long shot pick.
Okay.
Yeah, those are, like you said, those are buddies. And Johnson's playing some good golf, but the fact that he's got a teammate now, he won't have to exert as much energy. So maybe that's what he needs, because he ran out of gas on Sunday, I think. And that's what's going to happen. He's going up against guys 10, 15 years younger than him. So it's going to happen, and maybe this relationship that they have at 110-1, it's a big number for those guys. I'm kind of surprised they're really that much of an underdog. When you take a look at guys, like to me, there's just no way I understand what Bird is in his career. I get that. But there's no way Zach Johnson and Jonathan Bird should be any lower than Padraig Harrington and Lowry.
Yeah, but I think even Jonathan Bird, too, is playing better than he has the last couple of years. And I think what this shows is that nobody really kind of has any idea what to do about this field, both in terms of setting the number and people that come in and lay their money down and whether the number moves or not. It's all kind of based on name recognition and if you've got a partner that isn't necessarily that high up, sometimes it brings you down, as with Zach Johnson. But you know what? You go back to the 66-1. There's Brooks Koepka coming off injury with a guy in the 1000s in the world ranking.
Yeah, that's true. And there's no reason that's another number that should not be better than Zach Johnson and Jonathan Bird. All right. So, yeah, there's really not a lot of good long shot picks. So unless you've got a reason for something, Joel, it might be hard for you because it's hard for me outside those two that were already off the board. But I'll go ahead and take a couple of guys that played really well last year. I'll go with Kraft and Tway at 55-1. They finished third last year.
Yeah, they look good that week. Kraft's been hanging around on a few boards lately, too. He's not in his worst form. Tway was kind of rough for a while after that hot stretch he had last year, but he's starting to come around a little bit, too. That's not a bad pick.
All right, so who are you going to go with?
And this is really difficult. There's so many groups. I don't see any groups here where like both players are playing well. Either one guy's playing way better than the other, or they're both terrible lately. I got one here at 55-1. I kind of like that Emiliano Grillo, Peter Uihlein duo.
Okay.
I think maybe Uihlein could kind of be like what Cameron Smith was last year. This guy who we've seen him show flashes, but he hasn't done it consistently. Maybe this is a good format for him to finally get his breakthrough win. And Grillo's been good lately. 16th last week, third the week before that. I think he had another top 10 recently too. Those odds are pretty decent, I think.
All right. Well, keep in mind on the long shots, you just like we talked about with the favorites. You are allowed to take the picks that have already been taken. We might want to take advantage of that this week with the long shots. So let's go to the first alternates and the ones that are left on the board as far as the favorite alternates. And there are a lot of players, a lot of teams still out there. The top team, it looks Spieth, Palmer still there, Rahm and Bryan. Then you've got Day and Ruffles. So a couple of Aussies that we talked about. Ruffles, by the way, 677th in the world. He's never won. Let's see. Day played with Fowler last year in this event, by the way, and they missed the cut. So it shows you Rose and Stenson missed the cut last year, and Day and Fowler. So you know the the tournament wasn't very happy about that. You got Snedeker and Holmes. You've got Duffner, who won this event in 2012. He's being paired with Perez. He was fifth last year with Patton Kizzire, but Perez is his teammate this year. Berger Woodland, also there. Poulter McDowell, we talked about. Fleetwood and Paisley, a couple of Englishmen, teamed up together. Hoffman and Watney. Watney's the 07 champ of this event. They were fifth last year, so they could be interesting. Horschel and Piercy. Horschel's the 2013 champ. Oosthuizen and Schwartzel. And Lovemark and Steele. We talked about Lovemark being the runner-up in 2016. And then you've got the what do you got? Scottish tandem of Knox and Laird. So those are the guys to choose from, Jeff. Unless you want to take one of the players that are already off the board.
No, there's enough to throw darts at. That really, for us to double up on any pick is just to doom them for good.
You're right.
So,
you don't want to do that, except for the long shots.
I think there are 22 tandems in the non-long shot category.
That's enough.
So plenty to choose from. I'm going to take a couple of guys that look like they have started to turn the corner a little bit in terms of recent play. Maybe they get hot and can lift each other to something good this week. Billy Horschel and Scott Piercy at 33-1.
All right, Horschel and Piercy, 33-1. Yeah, Horschel is playing some of the better golf that we've seen him play in a while. Missed the cut last year with his partner Matt Every. Okay, and my first alternate. I tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and I'll it's been I don't know. I was thinking about. You know what? I'll go ahead and do it. I'll do Hoffman and Watney. Why not? I'll do Hoffman and Watney. Again, Nick is starting to play some pretty decent golf. They're 33-1. He hasn't missed a cut in 9 events, and that's pretty. Even though he doesn't have a top 10, but these guys were 5th last year, so that helps. I know Hoffman, very disappointing, 64th last week. I mean, and that kind of is the one reason that I'm a little bit hesitant, because that's an event we all know that he dominates. So for him to finish 64th means that his game just not there. But I'll go with this tandem at 33-1. And Joel, that means you're up. So who are you going to go with?
I'm going to choose they should be a little familiar with each other. Ian Poulter and Graham McDowell at 30-1. Poulter's playing real well lately. 3 of his last 4 matches, he's been 1st, 5th, and 7th. McDowell's not as best, but he's been better. He's making cuts. And at least two are pretty familiar with each other. They played the Ryder Cup just once. They won it in the 08 version. But okay. At this point, it's pretty difficult. I was trying between them and the other English pairing there. I was trying to think of who would probably have some more symbiosis going. I'm going to go with more experience between those two.
Okay. Yeah, the only thing that scared me about McDowell was the 0-6-2 in his last 8. In Team Ryder Cup. I mean, in overall, when he's in these situations. But Team Ryder Cup 3-4-2 isn't bad. And then, like you said, Poulter's playing really well. And as Brady said, you get these Pete Dye golf courses, and he played really well at the RBC Heritage, and he just kind of ran out of gas. So he's got the gas tank going again. So why not? Poulter and McDowell, definitely a team to keep an eye on. Okay, and especially with Poulter, we all know how he can get into these things.
Yeah.
All right, Jeff. So alternate number 2, long shot. You're going to go with now. This is you will not be you don't worry. You will not jinx me if you want to go with Stricker and Kelly. Because I think I'm taking Zach and Bird. So it's just very difficult to find anything else here. I mean, hey, Trey Mullenix is playing pretty good, huh?
Yeah, all of a sudden he's started to play well the last couple of weeks. I'm going to reach back into the Sea Island pool for my second alternate or for my long shot alternates as well, and they were also college teammates at the University of Georgia, Harris English and Hudson Swafford at 100 to 1.
All right, English and Swafford, teammates at Georgia, so they must have played together. English and Swafford.
Yeah, and like I say, they're also part of the Sea Island Mafia. So
all right,
2 Sea Island picks for my long shots this week.
Okay, and Stroud and Stewart probably playing an on-na game. They're together. They were 11th last year.
I can never tell them apart anyway.
Yeah, they were 11th last year. They're in the mix. Yeah. Boy, this is I don't know. I don't see anything here. By the way, Jamie Donaldson, who's paired with Fisher, since being 24th in the world at the end of the 2014 season, he's gone from 46th to 143rd to 279th, and now he's up to 330th. So it looks like his best days are behind him. Not sure that's a good way to go. If I'm gonna use the rule, this is the week to do it. So I'm taking Zach Johnson and Bird here as my second alternate. I don't see anything. I might as well just close my eyes and put my pen down and see where it lands. Where are you gonna go here, Joel?
I'm not super comfortable with this one, but one of the players is probably the best player who's in any of the long shot groups. That's the Phenol Summer Hayes group at 66 to 1. Summer Hayes has been a nightmare this year. His iron game has been horrible. But maybe he could be this year's Jonas Blixt. I mean, someone who has shown some stuff before but hasn't really looked good recently. And in Phenol, we all know how great he is. And even when he was hurt at the Masters, he still put up a great performance there. So I'm going to go with that and hope that Summer Hayes kind of doesn't cause too much damage past the team, or maybe he'll even find some of whatever it was he had last year that he has lost this year.
All right. The only other two that I was thinking about taking as far as the, as the non-long shots, is I was thinking about going maybe with the Scottish pair of Laird and Knox. And then, sort of like what you did, Jeff, with the runner-ups, I was thinking that maybe I should just go ahead and also take the guys who won it last year, Smith and Blixt.
Yeah, and both of them are actually rounding into form again. Blixt played very well at Harbour Town a couple weeks ago, and we know how talented Cam Smith is. So it's hard to defend. I think that maybe it's even harder to defend in this two-man format where nobody really knows what's going on. That's it. You get to a dice roll at a certain point. I was also looking at Daniel Berger and Gary Woodland. Berger generally starts to heat up about this time of year, and Woodland's already won this year in Phoenix.
Yeah, it's Woodland. The only, with Woodland, he's one of these players that he hadn't won in a while, and he gets the win, and then it kind of just his game goes south. He hasn't played well at all since his win. Berger, meanwhile, even though he's been okay in some events, has not had a top 10 since July of last year, but he has played well on this golf course. He did both of them missed a cut with different teammates last year. Berger with Peters, Woodland with Chappell. But Berger was 20th in 2016 and 6th in 2015. So maybe it's just all, it's about finding the right partner. And maybe this will be a good tandem. Joel, anybody that was left off for you?
There were some of the longer shots I was considering.
Longer shots in this field?
Yeah. Well, if you want to go longest,
Saints alive.
Shots,
who?
Yeah, KJ Choi and Charlie Lee actually didn't do so bad in this last year.
I like it.
They missed T24, but 3 of those rounds were a 67, a 64, and a 66. They just did terrible on that third day. But for 300 to 1, or should they really be below Jim Furyk and David Duval at this point? I can't see that. Or
David Duval, that's right. There you go.
Yeah, Corey Connors and Mackenzie Hughes with the same odds as John Daly and Rory Sabatini. Connor and Hughes both been playing okay-ish.
Sure.
And you have the answer Diaz. Answer kind of dropped back a little last week. He'd been playing well coming into it, and I would imagine they at least know each other somehow because they're the two best golfers from their country.
Okay. All right. Good for you going with some of those other long shots. All right. So he's got long shot fever after Landry won last week at 150 to 1. Hopefully one of them will pay out. If so, then you better make sure you throw a buck on the winner this week, or if any of those guys win, or else you shouldn't come back to the show next week. All right.
Yeah, I learned my lesson on that.
All right. Well, you don't have – what do you got? Well, your biggest long shot this week is 66, so you can't really, I mean, still, 66, nothing wrong with that. All right. So, Joel, we will talk to you again next week. In the next 2 weeks, big weeks, Wells Fargo and the Players. So, excited about that?
Yeah, great, much more talented fields. I mean, I like this is kind of maybe a little bit of a novelty, but this week I think is interesting to watch, but I'm glad it's not like this every week. And at the same time, I'm glad that they put something in here that's a little different. This is a good week for that, but I'm happy we're going to be getting to better fields and more higher stakes.
Yeah, we just need the big teams to make it to Sunday and make it interesting. All right, sounds good. Joel, we'll talk to you next week.
All right, thank you.
All right, that's Joel Cook, ProGolfWeekly.com. And Jeff, so what are your storylines on Around the Tours?
Well, I think the biggest one actually came from the LPGA. There are now two sets of sisters in which both have won in LPGA history. And the first set, no surprise, it was Annika Sorenstam, and her sister Charlotta did her part and won one event at the 2000 Standard Register Ping in Phoenix, but they stood as the only ones for the longest time. But Moria Jutanugarn wrote an LA story, Hollywood script. She'd been knocking on the door actually all year with some very good finishes, and found a golf course that absolutely fit her eye and scored her first LPGA win. Her younger sister, Aria, has already won 7 times, including a major, and now they get a little corner of the record book alongside the Sorenstams as the only two sister pairs to score wins on the LPGA Tour. So good work for the Jutanugarns. We actually may get another one before the end of the year, because Nelly Korda, the younger sister of Jessica Korda, has been playing very well. So for LPGA watchers, that may be something to look out for as we go on this season.
All right, that and more at Around the Tours. That report is out every Wednesday here at PrimeSportsNetwork.com. You can also check out more of Joel Cook's weekly handicapping reports at ProGolfWeekly.com, as well as Brady Cannon. He has his reports both here at PrimeSportsNetwork.com and over at ProGolfWeekly.com. So next week, again, it's Wells Fargo, followed by the Players. Should be a lot of fun. And later this week, a lot of football coverage on the network, draft shows galore. So just starting tomorrow, you can just listen to your heart's content over the next 4 days or so, whether you're a Jet fan or an NFL fan. We've got a lot of NFL draft stuff. We've got our NASCAR show on Sunday for Talladega. That's, of course, always a big race. So no horse racing this week. We take the week off before the big weekend next weekend, where we will preview the Kentucky Oaks and the Kentucky Derby. That'll be a week from Friday. And then we have our NHL playoff preview for the second round. That's going to be on Thursday. So that's what's coming up later this week on Prime Sports Network. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter at PrimeSN. So for Brady Cannon, for Joel Cook, for Jeff Shane, I'm Greg DePalma. We'll see you next time on Prime Sports Golf.